This early morning, let us enjoy an excerpt from How to Meditate Like a Jedi and Then Meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is brought to you by the kind folks who sponsor this channel on Patreon. I should say support this channel. That's the more correct term. Anyway, this morning we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate, as transformatively as Rey on Octu under the guidance of Luke Skywalker, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news. If at any point during this morning's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply it to your life, simply type that question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Please chant with me. As disorganized as this might sound, I will not discuss the sixfold of the Buddha's path until after I have explored both the seventh and eighth folds. I know it seems silly, but hang in there. It makes more sense this way that you'll thank me. The seventh fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is mindfulness. For a very long time, folks have confused mindfulness with concentration. Probably since members of Yang or patriarchy began weaseling their way into positions of Buddhist leadership. It was most likely not done out of spite but confusion. For the rigidity and controlling tendencies of a young worldview lend themselves to concentration. Sadly, concentration begets more rigidity, fear, and controlling tendencies, which are antithetical to the Buddha's actual path of peace, release, love, and centered spontaneity. Okay, then what is mindfulness and how does it work? Through the lens of neuroscience and biology, we have evolved in such a way that during every inhalation, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not to actively concentrate, but rather to notice. Vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Let's fix this right here. I think it could be better if I did this. And let's move this. And put this here. Well, that's on. Okay, so much for that. which has evolved not to actively concentrate but rather to notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. This is an instinct which evolution has selected for survival. During each in-breath, we are wired to notice sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We are also wired to emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. Oops, did I go too far? I guess not. Therefore, noticing any of these does not constitute a failure in all mindfulness. Au contraire, it means we are practicing correctly, for such perceptions are grist for the mill of meditation. And now we turn to this morning's practice text, or sadhana, if you prefer Sanskrit. It's titled Secular Contemplation, Mindfulness, and Meditation, and it is my adaptation of the Anapanasati Sutta. There are many such adaptations. This one is presented not for a desire to transmit orthodoxy or tradition. Its intention is pragmatism, to help people be peaceful and happy, no less enlightened, as easily and as quickly as possible. So let's take a moment to pay attention to this photograph of a Buddha's statue in the center of the page. Notice the legs are not tortured into a full lotus posture. They're resting comfortably, one shin upon the other. This is done not by opening the knees, but by opening the hip sockets. Simply through the power of breathing and relaxation and gravity, sit for a week and you'll be able to accomplish this pose easily. Notice the hands are resting comfortable in the lap. The edge of each palm is pressing against the lower abdomen, reminding us to treat our lower abdomen as if it was a third lung. Our shoulders are not hunched all the way forward like Quasimodo. They're not pulled all the way back like a Paris Island Marine recruit. They have found the middle point between the two extremes. On the face, a subtle Mona Lisa smile plays across the corners of the mouth, the apples of the cheeks, and the crow's feet of the eyes. Between the pelvis and the head, there is traction, vertical traction. There are 16 exercises in the sutta. Now, that can be overwhelming, or can feel overwhelming, or at least kind of like a mental construct to those of us who have only 5 digits on each appendage. Therefore, for the sake of being less overwhelming, I tend to present it in terms of one set of 4 contemplations, and then 3 additional sets of 4 meditations each. I feel like that's bite-sized. Apparently so did the Buddha, because he organized it in sets of 4. We begin with the Dhammasati, circumstantial mindfulness, which is also known as Anicca Vipassana's impermanence contemplations that help us to sustainably let go. These 4 contemplations are ideal the next time you feel anger or anxious or sad. I'm a fan of people learning this system gradually over the course of 16 weeks. So this exercise, this first of 4 contemplations, I recommend practicing it for 32 rounds, at least once, about once every 12 hours. Now, an intelligent question is, how do I count 32 on just 4 fingers, 8 fingers and 2 thumbs? And the answer is multiplication. On our left hand, we count rounds. During each in-breath, we advance our left thumb. So the first round, the second round, the third round, the fourth round, and so forth until we've counted 16. And most of us understand that 16 times 2 is 32. So we count our sets of 16 upon the creases of our right hand. So for our first exercise, we'll count on the first crease and then the second crease of our right little finger. For the second contemplation, we'll do likewise on our right ring finger. For the third contemplation, we'll do likewise on our right middle finger. And for the fourth contemplation, we'll do likewise on our right index finger. So we're able to keep track of which exercise we're on and which set we're on. And once again, this might feel opaque to you, but when you play with this for a few weeks, it is as if the creases of your hands have turned into an abacus, and you're able to count to 250 on just 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, which is pretty cool. So we come to the first of 4 contemplations where we consider course and permanence. We're going to work with a rhetorical question. What is changing? And everything is hyphenated to give us everything in bite-sized pieces. Why? Because during our inhalation, we're only reciting, silently and mentally reciting 1 syllable. And during our exhalation, we are silently and mentally reciting the remaining 3 syllables. Why would we do that? Because that ratio is the most sustainable to balance alertness with relaxation. You'll notice on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, what's written is 2 sets of 16 rounds, just like I explained. So this question is rhetorical. The power of this practice comes neither from finding the answer to this question, nor receiving the answer to this question. This begs the question, What is the secret of this exercise's power? And here's the answer. If all we do is silently and mentally recite these 4 syllables during our inhalation and exhalation, I should say in harmony with our inhalation and exhalation and relaxation, oddly enough, we will make profound practice on the path in a manner that is terribly easy and efficient. But do not take my word for it. Put it to the test in the laboratory of your body and mind. Put it to the test by practicing this for about 32 repetitions every 12 hours or so. So I've taken the word changing and thrown a hyphen in there between the syllables just to make it easier to maintain the ratio. During their second week of training, I recommend practicing this exercise or this contemplation after 32 rounds of the first contemplation that preceded it every 12 hours. We've come to the second of 4 contemplations where we consider subtle impermanence, while playing with the rhetorical question, what is fading? You'll notice that on every page where there's an exercise, I've downloaded a drawing or a painting of a Jedi in meditation, just because it's fun, just because it's kind of inspiring. Welcome to this early morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. During your third week of training, I recommend practicing this contemplation, practicing 32 rounds of this contemplation. After 32 rounds of each of the two contemplations that preceded it, about every 12 hours or so. During this third of 4 contemplations, we'll consider very subtle impermanence. And we'll do so as easily as playing with a 4-syllable rhetorical question, what is ceasing? During the inhalation, we will silently and mentally recite the first syllable. During the exhalation, we will silently and mentally recite the final 3 syllables. Simply by silently and mentally reciting these syllables, in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation, we will make progress upon this path of peace. These 4 contemplations are ideal when you are going through it, whether you're going through anxiety or anger or sorrow. These are very useful exercises. Sit comfortably on the ground with your ankles resting on a folded blanket and your tush resting on a firm cushion, with your legs comfortably crossed, your hands in your lap, your shoulders not too far forward, not too far back, a gentle smile playing across the corners of your mouth, the apples of your cheek, and the crow's feet of your eyes, and a gentle traction between your pelvis and your head. During your 4th week of training, I recommend practicing 32 rounds of this contemplation only after 32 rounds of each of the 3 contemplations that preceded it. And I recommend performing it every 12 hours or so. We come to the 4th of 4 contemplations, where we consider relinquishing, yielding, surrendering, as we silently and mentally recite this 4-syllable rhetorical question: what's releasing? Welcome to this Welcome to this early morning's live stream. When you have specific questions about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type that question in great detail in the chat window. We continue with Kaya Sati's first set of 4 preliminary meditations to center our bodies, because Kaya is the ancient Pali word for body. Now, I typically recommend people take an incremental approach. The first week practicing 1 contemplation twice a day, the second week practicing 2 contemplations, the third week 3 contemplations, the 4th week 4 contemplations a day. I do that not to be elitist, but to refrain from setting people up for failure, because that's just cruel. Clearly, I'm not a member of the meditation police. I won't show up to the door and scold you if you don't follow my instructions. I just want to give you instructions so that to set you up for every possible success. Oh, sure, call me provincial. So, if this was one's 5th week of consecutive training, one might practice this meditation 32 rounds after performing 32 rounds of each of the 4 contemplations that preceded it, and doing this whole thing once every 12 hours. Anywho, we're beginning with the first of Centering's 4 physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate our relaxingly long, gentle exhalations. Quick note, mindfulness is the first of the 7 enlightenment factors. So what we do is this. During the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb calm. During the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the object phrase, the hyphenated object phrase, breathing long. So this is not an affirmation. We're not trying to believe something or manifest something. We're trying to remind ourselves that when our exhalations, come on now, when our exhalations, come on, 1, 2, 3, there we go. When our exhalations are longer and softer than our inhalations, they tend to be calming, which is wonderful if you are subject to feeling agitation. So let's play with this now for approximately 32 breaths. You don't have to count. That's my job. We come to the second of Centering's 4, physical preliminary practices. Where we mindfully notice and even investigate the coalescence of our invigoratingly sharp inhalations. So coalescence is the sixth enlightenment factor. Let's see. I'm going to put the word sixth, and then I'm going to do some computer magic. All right. We're going to play with the following. Oopsie, got to fix that display. So with this second meditation, during our inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the adjective short. During the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the three-syllable verb energize. This reminds us that as long as our inhalations are shorter and sharper than our exhalations, we will be able to avoid drowsiness during meditation. And the cool thing is, this entire meditation manual is written so that this ratio of short inhalation to longer exhalation is always maintained effortlessly. And of course, energy tends to be the third enlightenment factor. We come to the third of centerings for physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate our bodies. Now, the cool thing is we don't have to force ourselves to notice. You see, during every inhalation, whether we know it or not, whether we feel it or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to notice, not to concentrate, but to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. So we're playing once again with a 4-syllable intention. During the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the first syllable. During the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the remaining 3. While playing with this exercise, we could feel what could be described as very coarse bliss. In Buddhism, bliss is described as any sensation that is not pain. We come to the fourth of centerings for physical preliminary practices, where we allow our bodies to tranquilly relax. This tranquility is the fifth enlightenment factor. As we breathe, so we're playing with a 4-syllable meditation. During the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the first syllable form. During the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the remaining 3 syllables, relaxing. playing with this meditation, we get our first taste of very coarse emptiness. What do we mean by emptiness? Well, we use emptiness as a metaphor for every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our inhalation can now feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. So what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand? Welcome to this early morning's live stream. The moment you have a question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type that question in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Having passed the halfway point, we continue with Vedana Sati's first set of 4 jhana meditations that center our feelings. Vedana means feelings. We come to the first of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the first jhanas, our first level's blissful joy. This blissful joy flows from gently grinning with the corners of our mouth and the apples of our cheeks and the crow's feet of our eyes, grinning towards our bodies of flesh, blood, and bone. So we're going to work with a 4-syllable meditation. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the 1-syllable verb grin. And during the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the remaining 3 syllables to body. We come to our second of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the second jhana's peaceful joy. Not blissful joy, but peaceful joy, which of course is the 4th enlightenment factor. This peaceful joy flows from gently grinning with the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes, towards our thoughts, and we're using the word thought as an umbrella, towards our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. Therefore, during the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb grin, and during our exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the object phrase, to these thoughts. There is no need to perform any type of mental acrobatics, labeling or mental processes and the like. If all we do is silently and mentally recite these words in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation, we will make progress on the path. We now come to the third of 4 feeling-oriented centering exercises. Where we savor the third jhana's contentment by mindfully noticing, investigating, and coalescing our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the verb feel, and as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the object phrase thoughts, contents. What are the contents of the box? What are the contents of your thoughts? The irony is we're not forcing ourselves to notice these things. We are allowing ourselves to notice these things. We already are wired to notice these things. We come to the fourth of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices. Where we savor the 4th jhana's experience of neutrality by allowing our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining to tranquilly relax. we continue with Chitta Sati's second and final set of 4 jhana meditations that this time center our mind. So we're shifting gears from thoughts, contents to mind's contents. So thoughts, contents were emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Mind's contents are just our perceptions, just sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. Now, there's some people who get really bent out of their shape and they'll say mind is superior to thought. No, that's just indulging our controlling tendencies. Sometimes we emote, sometimes we see. They're neither good nor bad, they simply are. The question is, what do we do with them? Are we aware of them? And do we let go of them? That's what matters. During the inhale, so we shift gears. We began with, in the previous exercise, we were working mainly with feeling. Now we're working with watching, which is just helping us to let go even further. So during the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb watch. And during the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the what's the word I'm looking for? The subject phrase, mind's contents. Now you might ask, why am I making the O look funny? Because there's a difference between content and content. And I could just use an accent, but that would create confusion with the apostrophe. Remember, practice in a distinctly lazy manner. It's not our job to actively label every perception. If all we do is silently and mentally recite the words, I should say harmonize the recitation of watch mind's contents with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. If that's all we do, that's enough. And very similar to our previous exercise, this time we're grinning towards our mind, towards mind's simple perceptions, towards the more primitive part of our mind. Now let us, during our in-breath, let us silently and mentally recite mind, and during our exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite relaxing. We come to the final meditation of this early morning session. Mind now freeing. And if that sounds a bit cryptic, that's okay. Basically what's going on is we are relaxing into the balance between dread and desire, between shoving and reaching. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. Either way, in sometime this morning, in 2.25 hours, I could return to lead today's mid-morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.